Today we're checking out this. This is a 2024 Alfa Romeo Stelvio Competizione. So what is a Competizione? It sits between the Veloce and the Quadrifoglio. So it's not the full 505 horsepower beast that is the Quadrifoglio. Instead, we still have the 2-liter inline-4 with 280 horsepower in this. But they added some luxury and some sportiness over the Veloce in this trim. I think it looks fantastic. If you're looking for a stylish SUV with this Italian styling, large volumes with a couple of key sharp lines, this is the way to go. And they also released this new Moonlight Gray, which is Alfa Romeo's first matte color. And looking at it like this, I think it looks great. Not so sure about the black wheels though. Everybody just put black wheels onto their cars today. I would like to have them be in sort of a dark silver to appreciate this Alfa Romeo design. So what we're going to do in this video is, of course, you know the drill. We're going to have a look at the front end design, the side, the rear, the interior, and then last but not least, we're going to take this for a drive. Under the hood of the Stelvio Competizione, we do have a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder putting out 280 horsepower and 306 pound-feet of torque, connected to an 8-speed automatic. You have all-wheel drive. 0 to 60 is done in about 5.3 seconds. Fuel economy comes in at 22 city, 28 highway, and the price as this one is tested comes out at $58,520. Now, starting with the front end design, and this is typical Alfa Romeo. The thing about Alfas though, if you put this triangular grille right in the middle, it's not an easy thing to implement beautifully in a front end of a car, because it cuts right into the bumper. So it cuts between the top graphics, the top half, and the lower section. But Alfa Romeo still managed to do this very beautifully with this V Scudetto grille that we have here that did receive some updates over the years. And when you look at this front end, they have such a strong brand identity, Alfa Romeo. There's no mistaking this for anything else than an Alfa, thanks to this big grille in the middle. Now, looking at the functionality of the front end, pretty much everything here is functional. And I do love that about Alfa. They don't over stylize their cars. That's not part of the Italian design DNA. You want to have, as I said earlier, big volumes in combination with a few key lines and some very key graphics. This is a great example of that. For all the way down here, we do have the radar down here. We do have some intakes functional as well, and this big thing sticking up in the lower sections of the corner, adding some sportiness to this car. I love that these are body colored as well. Full LED headlights, and we have a small little chamfer going around the headlight, making it feel welcomed in the front end of the car. What's new for 2024 is that we have completely new headlight designs. Instead of having light bulbs now, we have full LED with this brand new 3 daytime run lights that you can see is also functioning as the indicators. I think it looks beautiful, and it also connects it to Alfa Romeo Giulia, which has the same updates for 2024. Overall, it creates a very nice design for this car, and again, it just brings in that Alfa Romeo DNA. One detail I want to mention here that is part of this, giving the key graphic features enough attention, is if you look at the front end logo right here, right in the middle, of course, you can see that it feels very nicely housed, because we have this small little bulge in the front end in the bodywork, creating a nice cap and a housing for this design. And we have this big fluid hood up top, again with a couple of key sharp lines. Typical Italian design. I'm glad that Alfa Romeo is not moving into this more industrial and product design, static design that we see a lot of other car companies do. Instead, they're sticking to this emotional vibe that I love about Alfa Romeo. Coming around to the side view of the Stelvio Competizione, specifically in this Moonlight Gray matte color, I think, again, it looks great in this finish. A couple of key lines in the side as well, again, with some very nice volumes and proportions. We have this line right here, and then we have the lower section line here. The only thing I would like to change here is you can see how they go parallel to each other. What that creates is a bit of a more static feel than I personally would like to see in an Italian design. So I would like to have the lower section have more of an upswing to it and have some sort of connection to the rear end. We also have the Competizione badge right here, all blacked out. I love that we don't have any chrome on this car. All the trim is completely blacked out, looking fantastic and sporty. Now, talking about the wheel and tire setup here, we do have two 55mm wide tires all around the car, 21-inch wheels. These are the biggest wheels you can get on the Stelvio. However, everything else being blacked out, you might think it suits to have black wheels here, but you have the blacked out trim around the window, the blacked out cap mirrors, and also this badge right here, the Competizione badge. When it comes to the wheels, I don't want to have them be black, because these are typical Alfa Romeo wheels, and Alfa Romeo with this 5-hole design should, in my opinion, always be silver. Silver is the only color that I would like to have for specifically this type of wheel. So that's something that I would personally switch up on this specific car. Now, looking at the Stelvio from a 3/4 rear view and the rear end, these are full LED, still a lot of Alfa DNA back here. I do love the roof spoiler up here. You can see how much this slopes down with the rear window. It creates a little bit of a problem with the visibility looking in the interior mirror, but it's not a big deal. I love when car companies put some styling and some aesthetics in front of 100% functionality. They could have had this in a Volvo line almost straight up like this with improved visibility, but it wouldn't look as good now, would it? I really like the line flow that goes on here, because we have a nice beautiful chamfer or line that goes all around here into the taillights, down here, creating this nice curvature right in the middle with the Alfa Romeo logo right there. Would want to change this and have this be hidden up there, because this is a $58,000 car. For that price range, I want to have everything be cleaned out in the back, including this wiper. Further down, you can see that we do have this very aggressive diffuser. This, if you want to talk bazooka tailpipes, just have a look at these pipes right here, in addition to the very aggressive center diffusion down low as well. Overall, it creates a very sporty look. It feels almost like the design is a little more sporty than what the drivetrain suggests, specifically with these big exhausts in the back. Now, if we open up the trunk, you can see that we do have plenty of space back here. By the way, the Stelvio logo in the back is actually chrome. I would like to have them be blacked out, just like we have on the Competizione on the side. There's plenty of room back here. If you need more space, you can always fold down the rear seats, and you have some storage underneath with a couple of tools for if you get a flat. Even though we have this sloping roofline in the back, I do think the storage space in the back, the luggage space, is pretty decent for what this is. It's also, of course, power assisted for $58,000, even though it's a little bit slower than I would like. It takes a while for it to close. Welcome to the beautiful interior of the 2024 Alfa Romeo Stelvio Competizione. It's a fantastic interior. I love what Alfa is doing with their interiors, because they feel old school, but at the same time they feel modern as well. For example, let's start up top here. We have a nice 12.3-inch gauge cluster. We also have a beautifully integrated 8.8-inch infotainment screen. I have a lot to say about this system. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. This being the Competizione, meaning that you do have leather, really soft, the proper thing up top, going all the way into the windshield up top. We do have some sort of fake carbon fiber trim here, adding to the sportiness of this car. This 12.3-inch gauge cluster is just beautifully integrated, because it has these two housings for it, two main big dials in the center, and a big display in the middle, which you can configure and do whatever you want, show whatever type of information you want in there. I think it's a great layout for this. The infotainment screen, I don't want to have it be bigger than 8.8 inches. I think this is totally fine for me. The only thing though, this system that I don't like is that it's the old system. It's not the same system, Uconnect 5, I do believe, that you get in the Tonale. This is still the older Uconnect system, and it's not very intuitive at all, and it's also a little bit laggy. But you do have a bunch of different settings you can go in here. You can check the performance page, for example, technical gauges, consumption history, and you have the native navigation system here as well. Again, it's not very intuitive, this system, and it's also kind of slow. So the only big negative that I have about this interior of the Stelvio for $58,000, over $58,000, I would love to have wireless Apple CarPlay, because that would be so much, that would make this entire thing obsolete, and I would just have my wireless charger, wireless Apple CarPlay connected all the time. But in this case, you can only connect it with a cable. and that feels like a bummer for this price range and for an Alfa Romeo for 2024. Now moving further down, you do have again these beautifully integrated vents. It looks like everything in here just flows. It has a nice flow to it, similar to what we have on the exterior design. This is very typical Italian design. I love that about this car. Further down, we have this very simple dials. I mean, again, I keep saying this, but I'm not sure why companies decide to put everything into the infotainment screen when this is so much easier to operate when it comes to the climate control settings. You have 2-zone climate control here, you have heated seats, you don't get ventilated seats in this. I do think they probably should have included that for this price range, but you have heated steering wheel here as well, and the heated seats in 3 different levels. The fan speed, single nice little dial, that's all you need. All the way down here you do have a USB and 2 cup holders, and looking at this beautiful gear selector here, you have it leather wrapped, this being the Competizione, and you also have the red stitching going around it. And if you put it into reverse, this is another negative with this older Uconnect system, is that the resolution and the screen size for the backup camera, it's not the best. It's very grainy and super small, but you're still gonna see the big Chevy Tahoe behind you so you don't reverse into it. Putting it to drive, you just push it back, and into manual mode, you push it into the left side. You have these huge paddles here. We're gonna talk more about that in a minute. Go back to park, you have the parking brake here, a little coin slot or whatever this is right on the right side of the gear selector, and the Italian flag. Details like this, I appreciate. Volvo does that as well. On the seats, they have a little Swedish flag on the seat looking nice, just to bring in some of that national pride in their products. Now this is the main dial here for the drive modes. You have D and A, very Italian to call the DNA. You have dynamic, you have neutral, you have advanced efficiency, which is if you go on a highway, you want to have the car be as efficient as possible, you put it in the A. I like to have it in neutral. You also have the center button right here to either soften or firm up the suspension, because you do get the suspension components from the Quadrifoglio, even though you don't get the 505 horsepower engine in this case. To the right of the drive modes, you do have the volume knob, and this comes with a 14 speaker Harman and Kardon sound system. Sounds pretty good. Sounds decent. And this is the dial for controlling the infotainment screen. All the way back here, you do have a slot for your wireless charger here, and this is what the key looks like. It's a pretty standard looking key. However, they decided to put the Alfa Romeo logo right there on the back. You have remote start, and you can also open the trunk here, lock, unlock, and the panic button. They also have small little font Alfa Romeo down here at the bottom. So they decided to take a pretty standardized key and make something special with it. And I do appreciate, again, details like this just matter to me because it sets it apart from every other car that has the same exact design for this key. The armrest is decent size for this type of vehicle. Open it up, you have a bunch of USB, you have a aux port here as well. Relatively big storage for this type of vehicle. Now moving on to one of my favorite features for the Competizione interior are these seats. These seats are some of the most beautiful seats I have seen in an Alfa Romeo. They look absolutely stunning. And up top in the headrest, we do have the Alfa Romeo logo embroidered into the headrest with the Competizione as well. And again, the red stitching coming back. And have a look at these bolstering on the side, 14-way adjustable, both for the passenger and the driver. And you also have a lot of bolstering down here for the passenger. Overall, they just look great and definitely adds to the sporty feel. Now, moving on to the steering wheel here. This is a great looking steering wheel as well. We have the big Alfa Romeo logo in the middle. On the right side, you have the controls for the gauge cluster to change whatever information you want, and it also changes the layout depending on if you have it in D and A. Whichever you have in, it changes the entire layout for the display. Great system for me. I love this setup. It's exactly what I want, but I also would love to have wireless Apple CarPlay. If we had that, this would be a great, perfect interior for me. Now looking on the left side here, you have the controls for the cruise control settings and the engine start button. I want to have this be in red like we have on the Quadrifoglio because it just stands out more. I had to search for the start button in this car. I was looking here, left side of the steering wheel, and I saw that it's actually right here on the steering wheel. I should have remembered that from previous Alphas I've driven. Now, these paddles here on the back, these are proper surfboard paddles. very easy to use, even if you're holding your hands down here or if you're holding them up top. I love the size of them, and they're also proper metal. Brings up the quality of this interior. In this case, they are mounted on the column so they don't follow the steering wheel, which is a cool thing as well, because you always know where you have the right pedal that you want to use. To the left of the steering wheel, you do have the settings for the light settings. Looking up top, this one comes equipped with this big panoramic sunroof that stretches all the way back to the passenger seats. I'm actually going to keep this open for now, even though it is very, very hot today, just to bring in some more lighting in here. So let's jump into the back seat. This is my driving position. I'm about 6'1", 6'2", so let's see if I can fit behind my own driving position in the back. It should be pretty interesting, because looking at it like this, it looks pretty tight for me, but let's jump in here. Let's see, I haven't been in here yet. It is pretty tight if I have my driving position in my normal position for the front seat here. Headroom is totally fine for me, but the legroom, it is a little tight. I have to have my legs on the sides here. You have this net in the back, and you also have two USBs, regular USBs here, in addition to the heated seats for both passengers in 3 different levels back here, with some vents in the middle section. If we fold down the armrest, you do have 2 cup holders here. So with that said, let's do what this Alfa Romeo is all about. Let's take this for a drive. The black start button in this case, let's fire it up. We are in neutral right now. And let's see how this one drives with the 2-liter inline 4, 280 horsepower, 306 pound-feet of torque, which I feel is pretty, it's good. It's a good power number for this type of vehicle. I don't feel like I necessarily need more power. Let's put it in dynamic, and let's get out of this lot here. It's got good power, all-wheel drive, of course, 8-speed automatic, which is actually, in an SUV, pretty unusual, but it's actually pretty fun to use the paddles in this car. We're gonna do that when we get out to this main road out here. Now, the name SUV, every single SUV, by definition, sport utility vehicle. Supposed to be a fun, sporty experience, but 80% of them are just not. However, with this Alfa Romeo, that is different, because this is indeed a very, very sporty driving experience. And I always love driving Alfas, because I feel like they feel special. You feel like you're driving something unique that's not very common. You don't see a lot of Alfas here, and I don't really understand why. Going into manual now. Going uphill, and we're up to 60 right there. So it is it's not a super quick car, but not everything has to do with speed and 0 to 60 times. If a car is great to drive, it's great to drive. It comes down to the handling, how it responds to the throttle, the cornering, and how the gearbox, everything comes together to create a sporty experience. And that is what I think Alfa is doing so well with these cars. I wish it sounded a little better though, with those big bazooka tailpipes in the back. I want to hear a little bit more of that noise, but at least they're not pumping in some fake exhaust notes into this car, like a lot of other BMW, for example. Mercedes does that as well. This car likes to keep it all natural, and I do respect that. I really wish more car companies implemented these type of interiors, where you just have a classic normal layout. We don't have a big widescreen TV sticking up like this on the dash. Look how beautifully integrated this is. This is still 8.8 inches, even though the Uconnect system in this one is old one, not the best one. But if you can live with a wire Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it's the perfect interior, like I said when we talked about this interior. So let's stop up here, because there is no one behind me right now, and we're on a straight. So first of all, let's put it in automatic for the gearbox, and let's floor the brakes from 45 to 0. Okay, so those big red brake calipers that you have, they definitely do their job. So now let's go into manual before we get cars behind us. Put it into manual and let's go. Build up the turbos there. There we go. 40, 50, and we're up to 60. So 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, which again is not bad. 280 horsepower doesn't sound like, you know, a crazy amount. But when you're driving it, it feels like it is a very nice number for this car. Down to second into this hairpin right here. And let's floor it again. There we go. It's definitely a fun car to drive. SUVs normally are not that fun to drive, but this one feels like they nailed the sporty character of this car. All right, so let's put it into automatic, and let's put it into advanced efficient mode to just have it in the softest suspension setting. And let's get up to highway speeds here. We're on a downhill. Beautiful weather today, 84 degrees. Summer is finally here. And we're up to 70. Just cruising on highways. The thing that I was surprised by when I first got this car is how far you get on one tank. It's way over 500 miles on a tank, which is great. So if you want to, that's also one of the benefits of this car. If you want to have this as a sporty SUV up in the mountains, have some fun, it can definitely give you that experience. But then if you want to take it on a long road trip from here to Florida, how far is it? I think it's like, might be completely off here, but it might be like 1,600 miles, something like that, Colorado to South Florida. You only have to fill it up, what is it, barely 3 times the entire drive down there, which is great. Even though we're rolling on these big black 20-inch wheels, they're not that wide, they're 255 millimeter wide, so the road noise in here when you're cruising at highway speeds are not that bad at all. They're actually really good. I'm going 65 right now, and it's not loud in here at all. Now we're coming into the small, cute little town of Morrison, Colorado. I live about 5 minutes from here. Very happy to be living this close to these type of roads. That was one of the main reasons why I wanted to move to Colorado from Florida, even though I do miss the beach a lot. But I switched the beaches for the mountains and these type of roads. And when you get cars to drive every week, it's kind of boring to drive it in South Florida because everything is just a grid system. There are no fun, exciting roads up there, down there that we have right here. Just as I said, like 5-10 minutes from where I live. There's a nice E36 convertible coming here. Love these old BMWs. They're just proper beamers, these cars. Another thing I miss about South Florida is every time you go out for a drive, it's like you're going to, you know, an exotic car show. You see Ferraris, Lambos everywhere, which is pretty cool living down there. You don't see as many here. I feel like Porsche is more common here in Colorado than we do have down in South Florida, but Ferraris, Lambos, you don't see them very often here. Ooh, we got a classic old Triumph here. It's Sunday today, so I guess the TR6. So I guess all the old vintage cars. Here's another one. I think that is I'm not sure what that is, but it's a beauty. There's a cool Audi S4, lowered, slammed, looking nice. Final verdict on the 2024 Alfa Romeo Stelvio Competizione for $58,500. I think what you're paying for that premium price is the sporty experience that you get in this SUV compared to other SUVs. Because as I said, this sits between the Veloce and the Quadrifoglio, even though maybe I want to have maybe around 350 horsepower, something like that. They could have boosted the power a little bit compared to the Veloce, but we still get the same powertrain. But as I said, the power doesn't feel like it's lacking in this car. The only thing that I really miss for everyday driving in this car is going to be wireless Apple CarPlay. But that's, I don't know if that's a small deal. It's a pretty big deal if you're using this every single day. But other than that, I think this is a great car, specifically with the sporty experience and with the sporty interior that you get with the Competizione.